Hello, I'm coming to you again to talk about House Resolution 1955 and what Ron Paul had to say about it. Mr. Speaker, I regret that I was unavoidably out of town on October 23, 2007, when a vote was taken on House Resolution 1955, the Violent Radicalization and Homegrown Terrorism Act. Had I been able to vote, I would have voted against this misguided and dangerous piece of legislation. This legislation focuses the weight of the U.S. government inward towards its own citizens under the guise of protecting us against violent radicalization. I would like to note that this legislation was brought to the floor for a vote under suspension of regular order. These so-called suspension bills are meant to be non-controversial, thereby negating the need for more complete and open debate allowed under regular order. It is difficult for me to believe that none of my colleagues in Congress view H.R. 1955 with its trouble civil liberty implications as non-controversial. There are many causes for concern in H.R. 1955. The legislation specifically singles out the Internet for facilitating violent radicalization, ideologically based violence, and the homegrown terrorism process in the United States. Such language may well be the first step towards U.S. government regulation of what we are allowed to access on the Internet. Are we, for our own good, to be subjected to the kind of controversial control of the Internet that we see in unfree societies? This bill certainly sets us on that course. This seems to be an unwise and dangerous solution in search of a real problem. Previous acts of ideologically motivated violence, though rare, have been resolved successfully under law enforcement techniques. Existing laws against violence in our court system. Even if there were a surge of violent radicalization, a claim of which there is no evidence, there is no reason to believe that our criminal justice system is to be flawed and weak, to be incapable of trying to punish those who precipitate violent acts. This legislation will set up a new government bureaucracy to monitor and further study the as yet undemonstrated pressing problem of homegrown terrorism and radicalization. It will no doubt prove to be another bureaucracy that artificially infiltrates problems so as to guarantee its future existence and funding, but it may do so as a great further expense to our civil liberties. What disturbs me more about this legislation is that it leaves the door wide open for the broadest definition of what constitutes radicalization. Could otherwise nonviolent anti-tax, anti-war, and anti-abortion groups fall under these watchful eyes in the new government commission? Assurances otherwise as this legislation are unconvincing. In addition, this legislation will create a Department of Homeland Security established university-based body to further study radicalization and to contribute to the establishment of training, written materials, information, and professional resources to aid in combating violent radicalization and homegrown terrorism. I wonder whether this is really a legitimate role for our institutes of higher learning in a free society. Legislation such as this demands heavy-handed governmental action against American citizens where no crime has been committed. It is yet another attack on our constitutionally protected civil liberties. It is my sincere hope that we will reject such approaches to security which will fall at their stated goal at a great cost to our way of life. That's why we need to elect Ron Paul as our president. He stands up for our Constitution and our rights and our beliefs, and he's being censored by the mainstream media, and now with this H.R. 1955, they're wanting to censor the Internet and what we can access and say and do and read and get. So just keep this in mind whenever you're electing your officials. Thank you.